Look at that.
I'm coming on this one.
Go on that one. 3, 2. What up, world? Welcome to the first ever Dropping Gems podcast, episode 1. I'll be your host, Nick France, along with
Justin Kelly.
All right, folks. So, the birth of this podcast. Me, this man, many others, we're going through our daily lives, and I swear, gems are being dropped left and right. This guy's got some wisdom. Many of people we know in the community, they're wisdom droppers. So, I want to go ahead and kind of start sharing a little bit of that. You know, that's the purpose of this podcast. You know some people in the community too. We're gonna get some other folks on here, but go ahead and share a little bit. What are you looking to get out of this podcast as well?
Oh man, I mean, you know, like you said, gems, right? Little pieces of wisdom, and you know, the more you have the opportunity to hear those things, the better off you are. Not only in your professional life, but your personal life. Like, you know, getting around wisdom, hearing gems getting dropped. I mean, that's what the show's all about, right?
Absolutely.
So, I'm excited to be part of it and see what we can't drum up with this show.
Power and proximity. So, speaking of which, we're going to get a little close to this man today, and we're going to find out a little bit about who is this guy? Who is Justin Kelly? And we're going to start with that. I want to kind of go in deep. We're going to probably touch on some current events. I'd like to get your perspective on some things, hopefully here. We're going to smoke some fine cigars. What do we got today?
Very fine cigars here. We got the Tabac. Special Coronas.
Coffee infusion.
Yeah, a little coffee infusion.
That should be pretty good. So we're gonna spark these up, and I'm gonna interrogate this man right here, and by the end, I'm gonna ask this man a couple questions maybe I've never even asked him myself, on or off camera, and we're gonna get to know this guy. So I guess to kick that off, for the people watching at home, for me, I've never asked you this question.
Okay.
Let's go back in time. Let's go to Justin Kelly in high school. Okay.
All right. Wow. Oh boy.
Senior year, freshman year, whatever year, junior year, I don't care. High school, I'm sitting next to you in class. Who are you? Who is Justin Kelly? What's he up to?
Well, I mean, listen, at a younger age myself, I found myself leaving public school, going to private school.
Okay.
And trying to find my way, and obviously school for anybody, or most people anyways, is a frustrating situation, and
Sure.
You're wanting to move on with life. You feel like there's something bigger and better out there for you, and so I did independent studies and got ahead, and finished high school early, dual enrolled.
Were you doing sports at the time?
I did some sports. When I was in public school, played football, wrestled. And
You wrestled?
Wrestled.
I did as well. I don't think I ever knew that about you.
Yeah, I did.
That
some
sport,
wrestling.
hands down, changed my life.
Yeah,
Period.
it can, man. It can hit for the better or worse, But,
Yeah, for sure.
I played basketball in the private school I went to. They really didn't have a whole lot of sports there, Smaller school.
So you went to
not a lot
private
of team
school.
sports.
When did you go to private school? What year was that?
That was let's see. That was 99?
And this was high school for you?
This was high school, yeah. This was high
Okay.
school. So started my 10th grade year at a private school, finished out high school there. And by the 11th grade, I had finished all my credits for classes, dual enrolled. So I only had to go to school, check in, and then I was out for the rest of the day. So
Okay.
at that point in time, I was working on a golf course, actually. Yeah, man. I was working on a golf course. Family friends, hired me at a younger age. He was a really awesome guy, superintendent, extremely knowledgeable.
Now, I think you told me at one point in time, in another world, you would be a superintendent on a very pristine golf course somewhere.
100%, man. Yeah, 100%. That's where I was heading. That's where I was going. I had plans to go to, Lake City Community College, where, believe it or not, they have one of the best programs for agronomy.
Interesting.
Which is, essentially, being for lack of better terms, a doctor for plants, grasses.
Interesting.
And, you learn how to properly maintain a golf course.
So let's fast forward to today.
Cool.
You're in the finance world. You're a business owner. You've fixed, flipped, many properties over invested. What stopped you? Because you said that was a route for you. What was the point where you said, maybe not for me? Let me venture out. Let me get away from this profession. I don't want to pursue this. What was?
No, absolutely.
Walk me through that.
Absolutely,
that tale.
man. Absolutely. So, it's senior year, and I had an opportunity with a family member of mine that was in the business.
Okay.
And
senior year of high school.
Senior
you still
year.
At a private school?
Still at a private school. Yep, finishing out. But I was going in.
Now, was this a military school? I think I've heard you say you went to a military school.
There was a little stint in between
gotcha,
there, but that's for another show altogether. Yeah, there's a stint in between the public school and the private school.
There we go.
Okay,
we'll save that for another episode.
We'll save that for another episode. But
you meet this family member.
Absolutely, family member invites me in. I go into the office. He says, "Hey, why don't you come work here? See if you like it, and until you're ready to go to college, you got something going on here." And went in and immediately knew this is it. Like, this is what I want to do. And so from day one, my mind changed. My mindset changed. My path changed. And
So how did you know? How did you know? Like, this is what I want to do. Like, okay, I switched things up. I'm in something new here.
Yeah.
How long did it take you until you were like, I think I want to do this? Like, this is challenging, but I can build something here.
First 60 minutes.
First 60 minutes.
Yeah, on the job. Yeah, first 60 minutes. And, being that I was working on a golf course since I was about the age of probably 13, 14 years old, I guess that was what I knew.
Sure.
And I had a passion for playing golf. I had a passion to be on the golf course. But I never had that just feeling like, oh, absolutely, this is it.
Right.
It was more or less that was the path that I was in the way of that path.
Sure.
Right.
Kind of going through the motions, if you would.
Going through the motions, and I hadn't been exposed to anything else. I hadn't seen anything else, and so it just so happens I hopped into finance with that opportunity, and immediately I knew. I knew.
So you got into finance. You're in mortgages now, you own a mortgage company.
Yep.
Was it always mortgages?
It was, yes.
Okay, so you got in the mortgage industry.
Yep, it was always the mortgage industry.
Okay. And at what point did you go through, obviously you knew right off the bat, okay, I like this. This is what I could find myself doing.
Yeah.
How long was it until you said, okay, you looked around, you said, I got a bit of a career built up around this. And what point did you say, I want to take this to the next level? Walk me through going from day one to getting through to that next step, whatever that was for you. What was your mindset to get to that next spot?
It was out of necessity, really.
Out of necessity,
yeah,
not want.
It was out of necessity.
Interesting.
There was changes in the market happening. You could see it coming. The company that I was at, it just, I didn't feel like there was, some things that were going the right way. I saw the good, the bad, the ugly, and I said I want to eliminate all of that. I want to create a company with a completely different culture, a completely different feel, operates on a different level, and in order to do that, there was no finding that. I had to create it. So
Sure.
it was out of necessity.
Interesting that you put it that way. I feel like a lot of people, they tend to just say, grass will be greener here. Next. You got to a point where you said, enough is enough. Like, someone's got to build this space that you envision is the right way to do business.
Yeah.
Now, that must have been an emotional process for you. If people are watching this, I'm sure we got tons of people that are business owners or aspiring business owners, and there's that leap of, we're doing this.
Right.
Was it a full immersement? Was it back and forth? Give me the raw, authentic. What was it like for that time for you? Were you stressed? Were you excited? Paint that picture. You said, this is it. We're starting this company.
Highly stressed.
Okay.
Highly excited. It was a very difficult time. I started the company in December of 2007, and
December of 2007.
Keep
in mind, you're a what kind of company?
A mortgage company.
Okay.
All right. Walking into a landmine.
Right. I was gonna say, for those of you not in the real estate, mortgage, finance, or just financial history world, that's a pretty rough time to be walking into the mortgage industry, let alone
Very rough time.
starting your own company.
Yeah, Very, very rough
Okay.
time, very scary time. And, you know, at that point in my life, you know, I had met my who's my wife now, my girlfriend who's my wife now. And, you know, we had a child, and, you know, there was bills, there was, you know, things that needed to be taken care of. And, you know, on top of that, I was starting a company and dumping resources in, and here we walk into this economy, right? And so I had to make a conscious decision. Yeah, I'd be excited, but have a proper amount of fear as well.
Sure.
And work through that. And so you got to make you have to have a mental toughness. And you know, the decision, the thought process, the emotion behind that was all driven out of that necessity. I saw I needed to do it, and then I acted on it. You know, typically when I put my mind to something, I go 110% all in. And so as far as from the emotional side, I mean, yeah, there's tons of emotions that go through your head. Scary. You know, there's fear.
Sure.
You know, there's stress. You know, there's happiness. There's you
Right.
know, all kinds of streams of emotions, and I think that happens for any new business owner. You know, you feel all of those emotions. It's what you do with it,
Sure.
and how it drives you that, you know, ends in a result.
And how were you able to take that, channel it, internalize it, and keep moving forward? Like, a lot of people, that will kill them. They'll result to drinking or this or that. They'll escape the reality. What were you telling yourself to say, no, let's face this reality and get through it?
Well, I never said that I didn't drink through it.
Oh. Okay, so that's step one.
Yeah, step one, you know, get yourself
Pour a couple
ready.
drinks
pour
over
a couple
there.
drinks.
Okay.
But, no, I mean, listen, it's day by day. You take it one day at a time. In a market like that, and there's such negativity.
Right.
Yeah, you're a new business owner. You have all these responsibilities. You put your blinders on. You don't listen. You channel everything else out. You put your blinders on, and you focus on what you can control. And, you know, at that time, I had to take it one day at a time and say, today, what can I control?
Sure.
What can I control? And how am I going to get to tomorrow?
Right.
And during that time, that's all you could really do. And, you know, you could focus, you could try to game plan, have a strategy, and then just take it one day at a time, marching towards that strategy.
Right. I love that. I mean, I know you've said it, right? You're day one putting your desk together, Lehman Brothers, shutting the doors, like, you know, with a uphill battle. You know, fast forward to today, quite a long ways. Kudos to you for you know what you've built through here.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about the why. Obviously, you have the necessity. You felt the culture. Talk to me about your brother a little bit. I know that was something for you that you said, I gotta let his name live on through that.
Yeah, it was a tough thing. You know, I lost my brother. I was 19 at the time. He was 26.
Okay.
And you know, he really loved his community. He loved his friends. He loved everybody. He was an awesome guy. Anybody that entered his life, you know, always had fond memories of him, fond things to say. And so, you know, he loved helping people. He was a Marine. He served later in law enforcement. And so I was like, you know, who better to name this company after, especially because so many of the things that he, you know, embodied is exactly what I want to build this culture off of.
Right.
So it made perfect sense that I named the company after him.
And if he was here today looking at your company and what you built, what do you think he'd have to say about it?
I think he'd be proud. I think he'd be happy. I think more so he'd look at the team that we have and say, wow, you guys as a whole are exactly what I would hope for.
That's good to hear. I'm sure, you know, like I said, you still got a long road ahead to go, but you know, for the battles you fought through thus far, kudos to you for that. I know as well, aside from mortgage, you've dabbled. You bought a house or two, right?
Yeah,
tell me
yeah.
about that. How many? If you had to tally up, how many fix, flips, buys? What do you say? How many properties have you dabbled in?
Over 200, I would say.
Over 200 properties.
Yep.
So you know a thing or two about buying, selling, fixing, flipping some properties.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so today we're in a little past mid-2022.
Yep.
We're in Florida, particularly this market. Obviously, we're in America.
Yep.
Every market's different.
Yep.
Speak to the Florida market. We're in a market now where, like you started, we're talking about you're setting your desk up when Lehman Brothers are shutting doors.
Yes.
So speak to the light of people right now. Maybe they're not in the real estate or mortgage, but they're looking to get themselves kick-started. They're hearing the recession word, and they're feeling a little timid. What would you say to those people that are clouded with that right now in this market?
Well, I would say that you have to have clarity in your mind as to what your goal is. If your goal in your mind, if it's just, I just want to buy real estate, that's not really, that's something you want. I want to own some real estate, but what's the ultimate goal? What is the end game? And
so you gotta have clarity.
You gotta have clarity.
You gotta have clarity
in what you want to do.
Okay.
If it's to own 10 properties, why?
Sure.
Do you want to get to a certain cash flow? Do you want to be able to, have offsetting rent, all rent offsetting all of the payments on the properties? Are you just trying to break even and let the equity grow over time? How long is that going to take for you to actually, realize some equity appreciation? Like there has to be a why behind everything and a plan and some architecture behind it and some thought behind it.
Okay.
So I would tell somebody, first sit down, write down your goals, think it all the way through, and then obviously get with somebody who's done it.
Sure.
Talk with them about, why they did it and what their goals were, and get an idea and an understanding of what it means to enter a market like this and what you're going to go through and some of the hard times, good times, like what kind of problems are you going to run into, and you need to understand, where am I getting my capital? How am I going to replenish that capital?
Right.
What about repairs? What about finding tenants? What about, big accounting? All these things are,
Sure.
It's almost like trial by fire if you've never done it before. But you want to have a really, really good understanding of what you're doing prior to even starting. Research. We have so many tools available these days. Like, I say it all the time. I'm like,
crazy, right?
You want to know something? There's this unbelievable thing. It's Google. It's Google. Google.
Cue the gems to drop out.
There's a gem right there. It's good. It's good. Like 30 years ago, people would kill to have these resources that we have. So if you're going in half-hearted or half-cocked, there's really no excuse anymore.
Right.
There's too many resources around you. So going back to the real estate market, have a plan, have clarity with what you're trying to do, and then get with a professional or somebody who's done it before and have a conversation wrapped around.
And even to relate that to maybe you're not in the real estate market, maybe you already own a property, you're a business owner, you're trying to grab some nuggets from here. One thing I picked up right there, and this could be applied, you're not buying real estate, you're doing anything. Number one, have clarity. Number two, the research. I could have hours and endless content. We have Ray Dalio. We got brilliant minds on here that we can learn from. So, yeah, I mean, get off your apps that are draining your time. You all know which ones they are. Get off of that, and yes, start putting some right research in your head. And then you said something very, very quickly. You passed over it. Talk to people, right? Talk to people. Talk to people who have done it.
Yep.
Talk to people who haven't done it. I think one thing for me, if I could go back in time, I'm still a really young dude, but if I can go back in time and accelerate myself any further, I would say, damn, I should have just kept talking to more people.
Yeah.
I think we're taught stranger danger. Don't talk to strangers, right? As a young kids, we're kind of taught that. That's something we hear a lot. But you come to find out, strangers have everything you need, and they need what you have to offer. You and I were strangers once upon a time, right? And I mean, that's kind of it with everything. How much of your success would you contribute to talking to people? Period. Talking to people. As simple as that question may sound, how much?
A large majority, a significant majority, in several different aspects, and different things that I've done in business and in life has always resulted from having conversations,
Sure.
networking, and being around others. Ideas come from that, business ideas, partnerships. There's so much to be had out there if you just take the time, number one, to not only talk to people, but to listen. And another thing, I think a lot of people miss opportunities because they're not listening for them. You know, they're not listening for the opportunity. And not only that, they don't act on the opportunity.
Yeah.
When you have an opportunity and you hear it and you know it, you have to go after it fiercely.
Yeah.
You know, and you got to follow up, and you got to drive it home. And I think that's a huge miss by a lot of people, and it separates those who are extremely successful from those who are just kind of mediocre, and then from those who just never really get where they want to be in life.
It's interesting that you say that, because we go through life, and there's key pivot moments where you're like, oh, this brought me down a whole nother path, whole nother route. For me, it was exactly like that, right? I overheard someone saying, hey, if you do this and you do this, you know, real estate office, boom, you get your license. And that's all I needed, was to overhear it. It wasn't even someone talking to me. It was friends I overheard.
Yep.
And that other individual who was given the offer didn't move forward with it, but I did, right? So that's two parts. One, you got to hear it, right? You got to keep your ears open for that stuff. And then number two, you got to jump, right? No one's going to throw it in your lap.
That's it. I mean, listen, what do we network for? Why do we have conversations with people? It's to learn, right? It's to get to know someone. And if you're there, you're having conversation, and you don't understand, hey, I hear an opportunity. If you can't identify an opportunity when you're sitting there networking with somebody, you need to go back and think, why am I networking to begin with?
Sure.
What's the reason I'm having conversations and talking to strangers?
Back to your clarity.
Back to your clarity. It all goes back to, what do you want?
Right.
You know, what do you want? I feel like, you know,
I think that's
a
hard
notebook right there. What do you want?
No, but I think that's a question that is, you have to ask yourself in peace and quiet, and you have to revisit that question pretty often.
Yeah.
Because without knowing what you want, by definition, you can't have that clarity.
Correct.
So there's a big hurdle for that. For me, reading has helped. I've been able to get in the mind of some other key people that have put in some key things into light. What are some things for you that have helped sharpen that clarity? Do that. Is it spending time alone? Is it thinking on it? What is it for you?
I mean, for me, I can go back to when I was a little kid.
Okay.
And you know, I don't know what caused the drive, but I know I always had it. And you know, I can remember, you know, in high school actually not even middle school, sitting with a buddy of mine, and you know, it's 2 a.m. and I was not supposed to be out of the house, and I was, and we're sitting there doing things we probably should not have been doing. And I remember looking over at him saying, what are we doing with our life? Like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be. Like, how are we going to get there doing this, and you know, not taking the right steps and doing the right. So, you know.
So you were at a young age. You saw that.
Young age, man. And I wasn't completely clear on what I wanted, but I knew I wanted success, right? And
start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere. And then as I got older and I got into finance, and I started being able to define what that meant to me and what I wanted, and you know, the event with my brother, and you know, being in the industry and seeing, like I said, the good, bad, and the ugly. I started developing and saying, this is what I want to build, a company with a different culture. That's wildly different from the industry norm.
Right.
And that's what started my path on that. And so I started developing clarity later, but the drive was still there.
Interesting.
Yep.
Now you're sitting there, you're a young individual. You're like, yo, buddy, the world's at our fingertips here.
Yeah.
How much would you contribute that to being in America?
I got to be honest. I think that, you know, being in America, you have a lot of privilege. You know what I mean? Like, number one, you have your freedom.
Sure.
Right. So that's one less thing that
break that down, because a lot of
face.
people are at America's throat today. You don't have freedom for this. What do you mean by that? Elaborate on that. What is freedom to you in America?
Freedom to me is being able to live, worship, create success for myself, my children, to be able to live unhindered from, you know, most government interference.
Sure,
you know what I mean? Sure, there's some law and some, you know, some things we
to
just
a
can't
certain
get around.
extent, right?
But I'm not worried about being jailed for my belief.
Right.
I'm not worried about my children being, you know, taken away from me by the government and abducted, and I'm not concerned with, you know, where I'm going to get my next meal from, you know, or how would I get access to, you know, health care and things like that. Like, there's so much in America. If you want it, you have the freedom to go get it.
We throw around the word first world problems versus third world problems, right?
Yep.
We're all in the same world here, okay? So to even imagine that your phone not having internet, or just the things that I see people today kind of take for granted, or they feel as if, you know, they don't have the ability to pursue that dream, like you're saying. They almost feel like it's being cut off. It's no longer attainable, and I gotta disagree with that. I feel like I look around, and it's so funny because it's the people that have come here that see it, and it's the people that have been here that don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you look, a lot of successful business owners have come from another country over here.
Many.
And they recognize
Many. And they're so appreciative.
Many that I've met, and they are beyond appreciative. And they because they've had their mind in another country where they can't even fathom or think about getting to that level or having
Right.
that success, because they're worried about a whole different set of problems in life. And so that gets removed when they come here to America. They realize the freedom,
Yeah.
and they capitalize on it. They see the opportunity, they hear, they see, they act.
100%. I think people now, they almost mind trick themselves. They go, oh, I can't do this because the Democrats, the Republicans, the this, the that, and it's really like, but just get yourself a $3.99 mirror and stare at it long enough, and you realize none of those things matter to you.
Yeah.
Or stopping you from reaching those little dreams that you had as a kid.
That's it. I mean, listen, there's no Democrat or Republican coming to throw you in jail for not voting one way or the other.
And that's not to say that America is the only country you can be successful in. I don't say that, but I do see a lot, especially from my age group, they seem negative about it. And it's amazing to me because the opportunity that we have, you get the freedom to fail, baby.
Yep.
You fail and you start again. And you fail and you start again. And I hope people can try to get out of their own head, right? Because for me, anytime I've made a breakthrough, it's like, dude, get out of your own way.
Yeah.
Get out of your own way.
Yeah. 100%.
And that's one thing that I wish people could get more of, is like, you got to have that self accountability to realize it. You can't blame the outside for you.
I agree with you, man. You get out of your own way. Stop being self-defeating. You know, saying I don't come from the. Now there you can get into, you know, subculture in America and things like, I didn't come from the right area in America,
Sure.
or the right, you know, and this, that, and the other.
Sure.
And so it's
Absolutely.
self-defeating.
Yeah.
It's at some point
There will be
you have to look
adversity.
in the mirror and you have to take the right steps.
Period. And I think America, not America, there will be adversity. And I think you gotta have the right mindset to fight that.
Yeah.
Geographically, sure, it can help you in certain areas, but that's one thing that's been pretty crucial for me that I've noticed myself.
Yeah, man. I mean, I talk about it all the time, but you said the right mindset, and you have to have a tough mental game. You have to be mentally tough to take yourself to the next level. Whether that be in any career, you've got to go to school. You got to get a certain degree. You don't have to go to school, but you've got to go in. You've got to get a job. You got to start at the bottom. You know, you have to work more hours than anybody else. You have to gain more knowledge. You have to become an expert, you know, on what you're doing. Like, there's just a lot of that. Is just I see a lot of people go through the motions. They come in, they get into a job or a position, and it's just it's an everyday. I'm going through the motions. I'm showing up. I'm putting in the required hours. I'm not gaining any more knowledge than I already have, and hell, I don't even have that, you know, my basic knowledge down. You know, I'm just kind of sliding through. You have to be mentally tough enough to say this is going to be difficult. I have to hold myself to a different standard, and I have to take it to the next level, and I have to challenge me. You have to challenge yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to see who does and who doesn't.
Sure.
Over the long period. Now, I'm in my late 30s. I've gotten to see what that looks like,
right,
from all channels in life. You know what I mean? From people that I've known, people that were just kind of getting started. Now they're later in life and they developed, and other people who had opportunities and didn't capitalize on them, and others who failed and let it defeat them, and others who won and just kept winning.
Right.
They just kept winning. So it's interesting, man.
So what I've picked up as well is not only do you need clarity, but it sounds like you need quite a dream, because without that little dream you had, it couldn't have sparked your clarity. Yeah. And from there, I don't think you would have, if you didn't have a clear dream, how would you stick out those shitty days? I mean, Lord, anyone knows you're going to have more bad days than good.
Oh man, I'll tell you.
So would you say it's part of having that dream and saying I'm gonna fight for that dream, or is that not so much on your mind?
I think that plays into it, but the other side of it is, like, I go back to that mental toughness.
Sure. It's
making the decision, and depending on what type of person you are, when you make a decision, do you hold yourself accountable to that or not?
Right.
I'm the type of person, like, when I make my mind up, and you can't talk me off a ledge. Like, you can't talk me down, you can't talk me out of it. I'm doing it, period. And, my wife will definitely tell you that. I'm stubborn in that respect, and I think that is a trait that, a lot of people who end up in business or end up, as successful, whatever you do, whether you're a successful loan officer, you're a successful real estate agent, you're a boat salesman. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do. It's just, I see the ones that are at the top 5%, they have that mental toughness about them. They have that I'm not going to be defeated attitude. And, I can always pick it out in somebody. I can always tell this person has it, this person could be developed into it, and I don't believe the whole thing you have it or you don't.
I was going to say, how would one develop that?
I think everybody matures differently from what I've seen, and some people very young in life, some people much later in life, and I don't know what the triggering mechanism is for each person.
Sure.
Because mine was different, but I can identify it when I see it.
Right.
But what causes that? How do you get yourself to that? It's a conscious decision that you're going to challenge yourself, and you're going to have a mental toughness, and the biggest part of it is holding yourself accountable. Because if you say get up and say, hey, I'm going to have mental toughness, and this is what I'm going to do,
right?
And then by the end of the day one, you didn't do anything you did nothing on that plan.
Sure.
Where's the mental toughness? Where's the accountability?
Right.
There's none, so you have to have the mental toughness, and then you have to be able to hold yourself accountable. Interesting.
Now, would you say that's something, right? You don't want to deflate yourself. Would you say that's something you should step ladder your way into? Maybe you're someone that is struggling with that self accountability. What would you say? What is an action item you'd give that person to do?
Absolutely. I would say start with one thing. There was a speech done by
I know where you're going. Yep.
Naval commander or Navy SEAL, I believe it was. And, he said, every morning get up and make your bed.
Bingo. First thing.
Start your day off right. You get in a good habit. You've completed a task. It just gets you off on the right foot. So I'm not saying make your bed.
Sure.
But maybe you say, hey, I want to make sure that I'm up at a certain time every day.
Mm-hmm.
You start off day one in mental toughness. Hold yourself accountable. Set 4 alarms if you have to. Get up, immediately turn on a cold shower, jump in it. You have to start. If you need to be step laddered into it, you have to be able to do simple tasks first before you're going to plan this huge, what seems to be an insurmountable, dream and task. You have to be able to complete and be consistent.
You got to prove to yourself, right? You got to build your own self-confidence as well.
Yep.
To get to that point. And one thing that's also pretty interesting, when you're on that path, you're trying to build your goals. You're trying to achieve a goal. your brain doesn't know the difference between a large win and a small win. You wake up, you said, I'm gonna make my bed. You made your bed. Your brain doesn't know the difference between, was that a large win? That was a win. That was you. You said you would do something, you did it.
Yep.
Big or small, I think people feel like they gotta prove themselves with the big things. Yo, start with the little stuff. Because if you can't prove to yourself the little things that you can do, shit, you're not gonna have the faith in yourself for the big things. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yes. And there's a second part to this, right? Anybody can do something for a week.
Sure.
2 weeks, maybe even a month.
Mm-hmm.
Show me that you can do it for a year.
Right.
2 years. 3 years. 3 years really isn't, I mean, listen, that's not a long time.
It's not a long time.
36 months.
Goes quick.
It goes quick. If you can't execute consistency,
what's it for?
What's it for?
Sure.
You know, at the end of the day, you're making promises to yourself, you're not keeping them. You end up letting yourself down.
Mm-hmm.
You may be good for a week, 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden you're off of it. And that you take a step back every time you do that. So that's why it's important when you start on this path and you say, hey, what can I do to step ladder myself? The biggest thing you can't do is set a goal and then step back off it.
Right.
And not
never lower the
toward it.
target.
Never lower the target. And do everything you can, right? The action plan that you set forth, do it all the way. And even if you don't hit your goal, it happens all the time. Like we set goals and, we don't hit it. But at the end of the day, whether it's, whatever it is, I'm going to get up, for a month straight and, I'm going to get up at 5:30.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one morning, it's like, I didn't roll out until 5:35. Okay, all right, 5:35, right? 5 minutes off. But have some consistency with it.
Mm-hmm.
And, work towards, at the end of that period, saying, I actually hit a goal. I set something, I said I was going to do it, and then next thing, make sure you've got longevity with that. Make it part of your life. It's a lifestyle change.
Otherwise, it's
temporary.
100%. And you mentioned short term versus long term. I found this to be amazing to me. Do you know what a short term business plan is in China? We're talking about America, we're talking about other places around the world. This fascinated me.
Humor me.
Take a guess. Short term business plan. Anyone? Even you guys, go for it. Anyone guess?
Short term business plan?
In China. You got America, okay, we think a certain way. What do you think the Chinese are on for their short-term plan? 20 years is a short-term business plan.
Okay. For
China.
All right. I was going to say 10, but
what do you think a short-term business plan is for us here in America? Would you give it 20 years? Would you give it 10 years even?
Yeah. I mean, you always want to think long-term. Right, but you're right. They're thinking. Speak
to the power of farsightedness. What has that done for you? How has that built an edge for you over others in your space?
Well, you got to remember, like if you only have a goal and it's only set out and you're only thinking about a year from now, you get to a year from now, and if you already in your mind don't know where you're heading next, you've got to sit and you've got to think about that, and you're already losing headway. Having long-term, thinking about the far side of the long-term, it helps you make decisions that are critical to your business, whether it's personal or business.
Yep.
You're making critical decisions that have to be made in the early stages, and if you're thinking long-term, you're making much better decisions than you are if you're thinking short-term. Right? Because the short-term, you're thinking now, and you're going to make the best decisions based on now.
Right.
But sometimes you have to make some really tough, hard decisions for the long haul.
You gotta look out for the future you.
You have to look out for the future you.
100%.
And when you have a company and you've got coworkers and you have other people that depend on you, and you're building something with, you have to be thinking about them as well.
Right.
And what's good for them long term. And so farsightedness has been huge for me. Thinking about 10, 20 years from now, I'm in it for the long haul. I'm in this for the long game. I'm not playing for this year or last year, one of the biggest originating years we've ever seen in history.
Sure.
I knew we were heading into this market. And,
right.
I
the far side in this, sure.
You know what we were thinking, and you know, we have the far sightedness, and we planned and we prepared, and you know, now we're executing on a plan. And so it's been huge, instrumental in building the company and doing things the right way.
And I would say, as an individual, I mean, I give this advice to, I've given this advice to my family members, people I love, myself. I tell this to myself all the time. And I try to remember, like, okay, you're about to make a decision. If the immediate result is probably an easier outcome than a hard one, your long-term result is probably going to put you in a tough spot. And vice versa. If the immediate, you know, result is probably one of where, okay, a little bit tougher solution, maybe a tougher outcome, tougher hurdle to climb after, generally speaking, if you're caring for yourself and moving in the right direction,
yes,
in the long term, you're going to find yourself in that easier landscape. I think people look at like wealthy people and good, well-off people, and they go, oh, easy for you, you know, you're living this life, you're living, but they don't understand, like, I made hard decisions, they made hard decisions years ago, thinking, embodying the future them to be there. How often would you say it's an accident that you run across success in life? I'm not talking about financial, I'm just, in life. What are the odds of that being an accident, would you say? 1 through 100. What are your odds?
I mean, how many people win the lottery out of, you know, I mean, that would be the only,
sure.
That'd be the only ones that I know.
Right.
Is just success by luck.
Right.
Is lottery winners, and you don't see too many other, unless you're, you know, obviously you inherit and you're born into money or something, you know, something like that, you know. It depends on how you define success, but people who are self-made, they've got a mental toughness.
And if you're inherited into wealth, I think a lot of people too, oh, you inherited the money. Sometimes those are the most depressed people walking this planet. Because you realize this piece of paper that this whole world is like driving me to chase is a piece of paper. And I feel like for some people, they say the third generation usually is the one to squander it, right? I mean, you're given so much, you're given so much. Yes, it's hard to gather that appreciation, but I feel like for so many, it's almost a curse to be born into that.
Right. I would agree with you in some cases. I think you still do see people who are born into it. You know, they're, and it might be second generation or whatever the case is, but you have individuals who have an example of a hardworking, you know, parent that built this successful life and business or whatever it is, and some, you know, every once in a while you'll see one mold into the proper expectation of them and exceed it, and take it to the next level. But in the majority, you're right, they're depressed. You know, they may not have wanted to take the same path, whatever the family business or whatever industry they're in, whatever the case is, they didn't want that wasn't for them, and they never quite found their way. You know what I mean? And so they've got everything that they need, they've got all the monetary needs, but they don't have it, you know, happiness up here, you know, to satisfy, you know, their mind, and you know, so
Matt Ishby is a great example of someone who has been put in the right place and chewed after his own dream, made a bigger dream and kept pushing for that.
Matt is a you know, personal friend of mine, and he is an amazing individual. He was given nothing, you know, in terms of what he's built. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In comparison to what he's built,
he had the choice. He could go, you know, he had his route. He could choose,
but when you measure his success now, it's so much higher than you know, the base opportunities he had or the paths he wanted to choose. So he took, you know, what he had and
grew
just beyond anybody's imagination.
Yeah, I mean, we're someone who could have probably grown up, nice lifestyle, living good, boom, boom, boom. I mean, the guy's reached net worth billionaire level. I mean, he's probably
multi-billionaire.
Aside from reaching billionaire level on a financial standpoint, the dude's fed his soul, right? Yeah. I mean, I think it's very clear that's been the pursuit of those who don't stop.
He's got a significant passion, mental toughness. You talk about somebody who saw it, had clarity, and then created the plan, and then executed, and did it for years. He didn't just get up at 4 a.m. and get in the office every single day for 6 months, for a year.
Right.
The guy's going on 20 years of doing it, every single day. That's what happens when you have mental tough. You have clarity, you have mental toughness, and you hold yourself accountable. That's the result.
Yeah, I
you get
mean
with somebody like
the compounding factor of stacking your day after day after day. Hey, we all wake up. There's days we don't want to do the stuff we have to do, but it goes back to having that discipline, right? Having the clarity and knowing what you want to pursue. So I think that's a great thing for people to take away. I think if one thing you can take from this, work on your clarity, right? I think a lot of people, that's something that even I can improve on. What do I really want out of life, out of it all? You know, if you don't ask yourself that, never gonna find it.
What is your why?
What is your why?
Why? That'll help you get clarity. Then you got to put a plan together. You got to get mental toughness. You got to execute, and then you got to hold yourself accountable.
I love it. I'm gonna wrap this up with a speed round. Okay, I'm gonna give you.
Boy.
I'm gonna give you.
Do I get a bell? Do I get a bell?
You get about 5 seconds to answer. No
All right,
bell
5
needed.
seconds.
I'm gonna shout out a name, a person, a thing, whatever it is, and I just want the first word that comes to mind. You ready?
Oh my Lord.
All right. Speed round, begin.
All right, let's do it.
Matt Ishbia.
Success.
Inflation.
Oh, painful.
Janet Yellen.
LOL.
LOL. Florida.
Paradise.
Paradise. DeSantis.
The man.
The man. China.
Yeah. Mr. Trump.
okay.
Mr. Trump.
Might have been the accent.
Yeah, it was the accent.
And lastly, America.
Freedom, man. Freedom.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kelly. This has been Dropping Gems, episode 1. We're coming live with you. More content coming soon. Hope you guys liked it. Hope you grabbed a couple gems. And stick around. There's going to be more coming your way.